wouldn't be January in Chicago without Fox UFC Saturday, and tomorrow the Octagon returns to the Windy City for another big night on the big network. Event on Fox, #1 ranked lightweight and former UFC champion Smooth Benson Henderson takes the first step towards reclaiming his title by meeting fellow top 5 opponent Josh Thomson. The Punk rocked Nate Diaz on Fox last year in his return to the Octagon and aims for an encore performance against Henderson here in Chi-Town. It's a must-see main event with title implications tomorrow, but today they battle the scale. This is the Fox UFC Saturday weigh-in starting now. Live from Chicago, Illinois on Fox Sports 2. Welcome to the Fox UFC Saturday weigh-in. There's a shot of the crowd assembled here for the weigh-ins. Hi, everybody. Karen Bryant joined by a trio of tough guys here in Chicago. Brian Stan, Daniel Cormier, and one other gentleman you might be familiar with, UFC lightweight champion Anthony Pettis. Anthony won the belt back in August over Benson Henderson with a first-round armbar, and he is a member of our team tonight. Now, first up, Anthony, tremendous win. It's great to see you get that armbar over Bendo, whose arms usually never, ever give. How does it feel, though, to, put on a suit, join the dark side of the media?
Feels good to be up here. I don't got to fight, and I'm getting some attention, and it's good to be on this side. If I don't know how to win a belt to get over here, I would have done it a long time ago.
We have Anthony Pettis here first. Let me say something. This is the best-dressed guy on this desk. The guy came here today with a Louis Vuitton bag. He is wearing this sports coat that you can only wear if you have phenomenal hair, a part that's very spiky. His shoes are fantastic. His slacks fit like they were just made exactly for him. Yeah. He was born in them. This is Anthony Pettis, the UFC champion and best-dressed guy in the UFC.
That's a lot of admiration coming from DC here.
It's a lot.
Impressive statement by Anthony
Very
Pettis.
nice. They don't call him Showtime for nothing. Well, listen, folks, while the champ mends his injured knee, tomorrow's headliners, Henderson and Thomson, will try to state their case for a shot at the gold in emphatic fashion. Anthony, of course, you're the last man to fight Benson. How do you think he's going to handle bouncing back after a loss?
I'm excited to see, because we know what he did last time. Coming off the loss in the WEC, came to the UFC, took it over by storm. I mean, he was running through guys, looking unbeatable. I was sitting there watching him work his way up to get his belt, and he did it flawlessly. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and he's a tremendous athlete, but he does a significant amount of damage once he gets in close. Gets you in the clinch, elbows, knees, and he's got some of the most brutal kicks other than Anthony Pettis in the UFC. Very dominant champion. We'll see how he comes back after that loss.
Hey, and on the other side of the cage is going to be my buddy Josh Thomson. Josh is a guy that's been fighting for a really long time. Very, very well-rounded. He always seems to be having fun when he steps into the cage. He made a huge statement by beating Nate Diaz when he came back to the UFC. Josh is a guy that can grapple. Josh is a guy that can wrestle. Josh is a guy that has good stand-up skills. Josh is a guy that has great footwork. He's a very, very good 155-pound fighter.
Yeah, Josh Thompson's been around for a very long time. I remember being in high school watching this guy compete. So, I mean, to say he's a vet is none the least. But, I mean, I'm very excited to see what he brings into the Octagon against Henderson. So, it's going to be a great fight.
Well, folks, when asked about the magnitude of this matchup, Benson Henderson said that the winner will be in a good position to challenge for the title, while acknowledging that the loser will be in, quote, a bad place. So for more insight on this meaningful main event, we send it to the 5th member of our broadcast team here in Chicago, in a bit of a bad place outside. Megan Olivia standing by. Megan.
Thanks, Karen. I hope you're enjoying that heat inside. I'm outside the famous Chicago Theater. And while the weather outside isn't that great, we've got a great main event for you tomorrow night here in Chicago. Now, Josh Thomson in 2010 was fighting under the Strikeforce banner, and he had some criticism for then WEC champion Ben Henderson. He said he wasn't sure if Ben and the other WEC lightweights deserve the rankings from the media in the 155-pound division. Now, this fight is happening 3 years later, and he has since changed his tune. He says that he thinks Ben is the GSP of the lightweight division, and actually said he thinks he's a tougher fight than Anthony Pettis. Now, Benson did not forget those comments from Josh. He says he has a great memory when it comes to criticism about him, and he hasn't really changed much for this training camp, which he is feeling very confident in. He said he made a minor mistake in the fight with Pettis and got caught, and that his camp at MMA Lab is better than ever. Two of the best lightweights in the world facing off tomorrow night, and the winner could challenge Anthony Pettis for that lightweight title. Anthony, what do you think? Winner get a shot at your belt?
Man, everybody wants a shot at this belt, but I think Josh Thomson definitely deserves a shot if he wins this fight impressively. He already had the shot. He chose to take a fight against Henderson, a big step up. And I think you know, if Josh wins this fight, he deserves a shot. Henderson might need a couple more wins. I beat him twice, so I think it makes sense for him to work his way back up the ladder.
Should be a great fight tomorrow. But when we come back, Henderson, Josh Thomson, Stipe Miocic, Gabe Gonzaga, and the rest of the fighters on tomorrow's card commence with the formalities and hit the scale when the Fox UFC Saturday weigh-in returns right here on Fox Sports 2. A final look at tomorrow's main event, lightweights Henderson and Josh Thomson. Before they step to the scale here in Chicago, when they enter the octagon tomorrow night, they'll be making a combined 4th appearance on Fox in a fight that could determine the next title challenger at 155 pounds. With that, we now toss it down to the stage where Joe Rogan will get the weigh-in started. Take it away, Joe.
What's happening in Chicago? Welcome to the weigh-ins, ladies and gentlemen. Brittany Palmer, Dana White, without him, none of this would be possible. Joe Silva, best matchmaker on the planet Earth. Lorenzo Fertitta, without him, we wouldn't be here. And Burt Watson, babysitter to the stars. We got a fantastic card for you, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to kick things off in the heavyweight division. Walt Harris versus Nikita Krylov.
Nikita Krylov is a finisher. All of his wins have been in the first round. The guy has 10 submissions, 6 wins in under a minute. He's a master of sport in 2 disciplines. When you start calling a guy a master of sport, that means he is at the top of that discipline. He's the master of sport in 2. That's a very high honor for Nikita Krylov.
And his opponent, Walt Harris.
Big Ticket Harris is on the card. Don't blink. All 6 of his professional victories have come by way of knockout, with all of those knockouts happening within the first 2 minutes of the very first round. He is a Golden Gloves and Naga champion, so comfortable on the feet and the ground.
241 for Mr. Harris.
Yeah, I talked to Walt Harris this morning. He specifically came over to tell me, he said, hey, look, watch tomorrow night. I will put on a show to kick off this card.
First fight of the night, ladies and gentlemen, Walt Harris and Nikita Krylov. Next, we move to the prelims live on Fox Sports 1. We kick things off in the welterweight division. George Sullivan versus Mike Rhodes.
As Mike Rhodes steps onto the scale to make his UFC debut at welterweight. Just a few short years ago, the Duke Roufus-trained fighter weighed 270 pounds, playing junior college basketball. He's hoping for his first win in the house of the Jordan belt.
She say 270 pounds. Anthony, I know you train with this guy. That's an incredible feat. He looks very good for having been that size just a short while ago.
$171 for Mr. Rhodes. And his opponent, George Sullivan.
This week, UFC Wednesday is on Fox Sports 2, starting with an all-new episode of The Ultimate Fighter Nations, Canada versus Australia, followed by UFC Tonight, as the guys preview UFC 169. It all starts Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, only on Fox Sports 2 and Fox Sports Go. $170. First fight on Fox Sports 1, George Sullivan and Mike Rhodes, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we fight in the lightweight division. Darren, Detroit superstar Cruikshank, takes on Mike, the Wolverine Rio.
Mike Rio is a 2-time NAIA wrestling champion. He was a member of Tough 15. But more importantly, there are 2 guys with the nickname the Wolverine on this fight card. We decided in the back that due to his 9 wins, we're calling Mike Rio the real Wolverine of UFC on Fox 10.
And of course, we always decide these things here on Fox Sports, the broadcast.
Yeah, we have the power, bro. That's why we sit up in these chairs.
That's right. He may actually have the thicker beard out of the 2 Wolverines as well, which is part of the voting.
He's got Kenny Florian hair, bro. That's nice.
It's impressive. It's almost impressive, as impressive as Anthony Pettis' belt right now.
Almost.
The Louis Vuitton belt, not your championship belt.
$155 for Mr. Rio. And his opponent, Darren Cruikshank.
So, Daniel, despite all the attributes you just talked about for Mike Rio, Darren Cruikshank actually came out and said Mike Rio's not dangerous at all. He's got a decent double leg, but I don't think he has a chance in this fight. That's ultra confidence.
$155 for Darren. Mike Rio and Darren Cruikshank, ladies and gentlemen, let them know. Next bout takes place in the bantamweight division. Junior Hernandez versus Hugo Viana.
Tonight, relive the epic bout between John Jones and Vitor Belfort from UFC 152 in its entirety on UFC Reloaded, beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1.
You know, I'll tell you what, how could you have a nickname like the Wolverine, but then come out rocking an Angry Birds t-shirt? It's It's too opposite for me.
Or why is he so clean cut? He's the Wolverine. This guy needs to look rugged some.
In his old pictures, man, he had a rugged beard. It's gone now, which is one of the reasons why we took the name away and gave it to Mike Rio.
I think when you look good, you feel good, and he's looking good tonight.
36.
136 for Mr. Vienna. And his opponent, Junior Hernandez.
Hot-handed Junior Hernandez has been doing combat sports since the age of 10 with both Taekwondo and boxing. And not only did that help him for his battles inside the octagon, but he says growing up the youngest of 8 children has also given him a fighting spirit.
Yeah, I train with this guy about in Pat Much's camp. He has amazing hands. Look for the boxing in this fight. I mean, this guy's he's definitely been around for a very long time. So excited to see his performance.
$36.
136 for Mr. Hernandez. Hugo Viana and Junior Hernandez, ladies and gentlemen. Next fight also takes place in the bantamweight division. Chico Camus versus Yatin Mesa.
Tonight, get in the ring with a Fox Fight Night for a full card of action, including a bout between junior welterweights Miguel Angel Huerta and undefeated Antonio Orozco. It all begins at 10 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1.
$135 for Mr. Mesa. And his opponent, Chico the King Camus.
Chico Camus is one of my oldest teammates. I started this guy in martial arts, so it's amazing to see him on this stage. He grew up so rough. I mean, he's from the neighborhoods we grew up in. To see him on this stage, very proud to see him up there. And I know he's going to have a lot of support from his crowd. We're very close to Milwaukee. I guarantee he gets a great, crazy amount of audience applause.
When a guy has a rugged background and they get to this level, man, it's always nice to see. I'm excited to see him tomorrow night. As you said, very well-rounded guy and a very good fighter.
It makes a difference, too. A lot of times you can tell a lot about them. If they've been through adversity before, we know how they're going to respond to it in the octagon. Real interested to see his debut. And great socks, by the way.
$135 for Mr. Camus.
When we saw Chico last August after his win, get a very emotional post-fight interview. It'll be interesting to see if we talk to him again tomorrow night.
Outstanding bantamweight action, ladies and gentlemen. Yatin Mesa and Chico Camus. Also in the bantamweight division, Eddie Wineland versus Yves Jaboué.
Yves Jaboué, he's actually won 4 out of his last 5 since moving down to 135 pounds. And despite being 34 years old, he said, I feel like I'm still in my 20s. But despite his 9 wins in both the UFC and the WC, he has not finished one opponent yet. And you can see there, just from his physique, he may be 34. You can see why he says he feels like he's in his 20s. In great shape for this fight tomorrow night.
135 for Mr. Jaboué. And his opponent, Eddie Wineland.
When the WC guys came over to the UFC, Eddie Wineland was one of the guys that had a good following with him, and he showed that he was ready to compete on this stage. Eddie Wineland was the former WC bantamweight champion, and last fight, he fought for the UFC championship in that division. They say it's a long road back to the title after losing the championship fight. Eddie Wineland starts that tomorrow night. $
135 from Mr. Wineland. Don't blink for this fight, ladies and gentlemen. Yves Joplay and Eddie Wineland. Also in the bantamweight division, Alex Caceres versus Sergio Pettis.
Sergio Pettis, my little brother, my motivation for training. I see this kid, where I was at, a couple years ago, making his rise up, and he had so much pressure on him. 20 years old, had an amazing debut, got to fight for 15 minutes. That's a big deal. He fought for 15 minutes, got a lot of experience, and I'm excited to see what he brings to the octagon now that he's comfortable.
The pressure that a guy must feel when your brother's the champion, Sergio seems to embrace that. This guy's got a bright future in this sport.
135 from Mr. Pettis.
Anthony, you did tell me after his last fight, though, that you were happy and proud, but you know he even has more to offer, right?
Definitely. I think he has a lot more to offer, and I think we'll see it tomorrow night.
Well, his opponent, Alex Caceres, unbeaten in his last 4 fights, says it's about time he reminded everyone that he's here. People don't seem to realize that he's been on this streak. I found it interesting. He said he has not watched your brother's debut in the UFC. He did not watch that fight at all, but he knows he's a striker.
It's funny that on Ultimate Fighter that I coach, Alex Caceres, missed a weigh-in in 155 one time. This guy has gone on the roll at a lighter division. He's been around for a really long time, and it is almost like he's been overlooked. And he's had a very good career so far inside the octagon. It's amazing what he's done.
Well, and you can see now, he doesn't make this weight easy, stripping down immediately before even getting on there.
Needs to cut the hair.
135 for Bruce Leroy.
135, he makes it. I'm saying, Brian, you cut a little bit of that hair, it's going to help.
You get yourself a nice high and tight like guy roll, and you're all right.
But that is what he is known for, man. Bruce Leroy, he wears the hair, and he's always smiling. Even in his worst moments, like he feels terrible right now, but he's still smiling.
And what a fight. These are two extremely creative mixed martial artists.
Sergio Pettis and Alex Caceres.
DC, you'll never hear me bust on anybody's hair,
Now we move on to the main card, live on Fox. We kick things off in the featherweight division. Darren the Damage Elkins versus Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens.
And Jeremy Stevens had a resurgence in his career since dropping down to 145 pounds, 2-0 since then. Feels that he puts a lot of it on moving his camp to Alliance Training Center there in San Diego. He has looked fantastic at this weight class.
Having fought Jeremy Stevens before, I know how dangerous he is at 155. I can only imagine how much more dangerous he is at 10 pounds lighter. And he's still going to have the same power, so very excited to see him tomorrow night.
$46.
146 from Mr. Stevens. And his opponent, Darren the Damage Elkins.
What I really like about Darren Elkins is that he has great condition. He's a 2-time state champion wrestler, and it shows in the cage because he keeps a really high pressure. Darren has done something really special. He's 6-1 at featherweight. That's why he's ranked in the top 10 of such a stacked division. This is a very difficult division. Darren is slowly creeping his way up to the top of that division. A win over Jeremy Stevens continues to push him in the right direction.
Yeah, this is one of the most talent-rich divisions in the UFC right now. 145 pounds, absolutely stacked.
$45.
145. Excellent fight to kick things off on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. Jeremy Stevens and Darren Elkins. Next, we move to the lightweight division. Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Adriano Martins.
Adriano Martins is coming into this fight riding a 6-fight win streak, but he wasn't born a fighter. He admits he was a mama's boy, and it was actually his mother who signed him up for his first judo class, hoping it would help him and his brothers with their self-esteem.
I actually got to watch Martins fight in Strikeforce on the very last card that I fought on, and this guy is very impressive. He goes forward, he has great forward pressure, but it's not frantic. It's not him just running after guys. It's almost like he's posturing. and that posture seems to scare his opponents. Big power. This guy's special. Most people don't know who he is, and you pick Cerrone because you don't know who he is, but this guy is very special. I cannot wait to see him fight.
That was the Gurgel fight where he just backed him up the entire time.
And knocked him down almost every time he hit him. And then he did it to Cruikshank in his last fight when he got into the UFC to set up the submission.
That's right. This will be his second fight in the UFC's octagon.
$55.
155 for Adriano. And his opponent, Donald Cowboy Cerrone.
Cowboy Cerrone, it's crazy how busy this guy is. He stays active. He's always fighting. We fought here last year, and I think he's at a different place in his career right now. Coming off his last fight versus Evan Dunham, he looked unbeatable. I mean, everything was on point, so I'm very excited to see what his performance is going to be. I'm actually most excited about this fight.
You know, I trained with this guy for years, and he is so much about focus. You know, if he's focused, he's as dangerous as anybody in the division, and loves to stir up controversy here wearing that Broncos jersey.
Well, he and Benson Henderson actually have a bet going. Benson is from Seattle, and so they've got some kind of a bet going on the big game next week.
Hey, loser shaves their eyebrows. That's a heck of a bet. That's a lot.
$55.
155 for Cowboy. Adriano Martins and Donald Cerrone. Next we move to the heavyweight division. Stipe Miocic versus Gabriel Napao Gonzaga.
Fox UFC Saturday returns tomorrow as Benson Henderson takes on Josh Thomson, plus a full card of epic bouts. Coverage begins at 4 p.m. Eastern with the pre-fight on Fox Sports 1, followed immediately by the prelims. Then switch to Fox for the main card at 8.
Gabriel Gonzaga is on a 2-fight streak with 2 knockout victories in the first round. Actually won 4 of his last 5. Guaranteed this fight is not going the distance. His last 5 fights, he's won 4 of them, 2 by submission, 2 by knockout. Never gone the distance in the UFC except for 1 time. Incredible finisher, and he's also, I believe, the hairiest fighter on the UFC roster.
A real Wolverine, yes?
Hey, old Gabriel's taking his time, huh?
He dressed warm for Chicago.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
Please don't. He may be hungry.
258 for Mr. Gonzaga. And his opponent, Stipe Miocic.
Stipe Miocic is quite the mixed martial artist, but he's also an overall great athlete. He played third base for the Cleveland State baseball team, was a nationally ranked Division I wrestler, and is a former Golden Gloves champion. He also had 8 varsity letters in high school from 3 different sports.
$245 for Mr. Miocic.
Stipe got right to the scale. He's all about business, man. This is going to be a very good fight. Stipe's one of those new breed of heavyweights. Not too big, but very active and very good. This will be fun. Let's see if Gabriel can keep his streak going, too.
Now let's take a closer look at the 2 men involved in the main event of the evening. Josh Thomson has always been one of the very best fighters in the world at lightweight, but now he's ready for a shot at the title. In Benson Henderson, you have the former UFC lightweight champion coming off this loss to Anthony Pettis, very motivated and hungry to get back to a #1 contender position so he can challenge Pettis once again for the title.
After losing the belt, you learn about yourself. You find out how much resolve you really have.
Josh Thomson, the first guy to stop Nate Diaz inside the octagon with a bang.
I had to prove that I was one of the best lightweights in the world by beating Nate Diaz.
It's an excellent fight between 2 guys with a lot on the line. Stylistically, it's an excellent matchup.
He thinks he's the best fighter on the planet.
I do everything better than him.
I am better than Josh at boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, everything all around.
No. I need to just take care of business and push Benson Henderson back to the drawing board.
This fight is going to be an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10.
The fans are going to get probably one of the best fights they've seen. There's a lot at stake.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the main event.
The reason you live in California is because in the wintertime you can have a tan like Josh the Punk Thomson. Look at my guy right here, main event in the UFC. This is sweet for Josh Thomson. You got to remember, Josh was here when the division got eliminated. He was on the cusp of fighting for the championship. Then almost had the opportunity to fight Anthony Pettis. Now he has to re-earn that title shot. A veteran of this sport, a guy that's been around, a guy that loves to fight, and a guy that will always bring the fight when he gets into the octagon. Josh Thomson is going to be ready to fight tomorrow night. He is going to put on a great show with that beautiful tan.
$55.
155 from Mr. Thomson.
Doesn't look like that quote-unquote bad camp has hurt him.
And his opponent, the former UFC lightweight champion of the world, Benson Smooth Henderson.
I think Benson Henderson, hearing former UFC lightweight champ, is going to be a big factor in this fight. He was so motivated after our last fight. He lost and came back on a tear. I mean, I can't talk about it enough. This guy comes back, and he doesn't really let the losses affect him. He comes back even hungrier and stronger, and I think we're going to see that tomorrow night.
Now, Daniel, as Benson Henderson takes his shirt off, I can't help but make the comparisons. When you weigh in at 205 lean, mean pounds, I think it's going to be a similar physique, right? You're going to have them same abs right there?
Brian, I can only wish. Brian, I would settle to look like you, Brian. Not even as good as Ben Henderson. I'd be okay looking like Brian Stan.
I don't know if you want that. Ask your wife first, man.
All right, Benson Henderson, our second fighter today, who has to use the towel for the weigh-in.
I'm most jealous of his hair.
It is pretty.
56.
156 for the former champion.
He's made it.
The main event of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, two of the very best lightweights on earth, Josh Thomson and Benson Henderson. Thank you very much. We will see you all tomorrow night on Fox.
Very nice. That was a pretty good stare down, guys. All right. Thank you very much, Joe Rogan. Always nice to have Joe on the mic here for the weigh-ins. Once again, I am Karen Bryant, beside Brian Stan, Daniel Cormier, and the current UFC lightweight champ, Anthony Pettis. My blood is pumping now, guys. That was a good stare. Now, of course, tomorrow's main event is a non-title affair, but it is scheduled for 5 5-minute rounds. So with that being said, DC, you think that favors one fighter other than more than